Hey everybody, it's Mark Pattison. I'm back again with another great episode of Finding Your Summit, all about people overcoming adversity and finding their way. Before we get to today's great guest, again, new website, www.markpattisonnfl.com. I have a new book out in the market. It's been doing really well, also with the same name of the podcast called Finding Your Summit. This is a lot about building resilience and faith in overcoming life's challenges that we all have that is out there. I just got back from keynote speaking in Austin, Texas. If you want me to come out and light up your audience, let me know. You can reach me through my website again. And I also have an event coming up in September, Seven Summits Summit, and it will be in the fall. And we've got some amazing speakers also coming to that event. We're also going to get out and climb and hike and challenge people that way too. Okay, so let's jump into today's great guest, Frank. How you doing? This is Frank Furnish. I had him on about 3 years ago, and I'm not sure what we were talking about, adventure in some capacity,
Yeah,
right?
probably. Had to be.
Yeah.
What
So
what else do
so
we talk about?
yeah. Well, let's just set this up. So you are a adventure athlete. You've been doing this stuff for a long time, and it's been ultra marathons, marathons literally all over the world. It's just a great way to set a goal and get out there and do your 26 miles. And you've done a bunch of back-to-back stuff. You've been in Antarctica. You've climbed Vincent. You've climbed up to the South Pole. I should have done that, by the way, when I was there, but that's just kind of the setup. But what we're talking about today is Mount Everest. So this is the granddaddy of them all.
Yep.
And you're headed there. You're doing it slightly different than me. And that's the reason why I want to bring you in today and
Yeah, a little
talk to
bit.
you about what that looks like, what side you're going on, so on and so forth. So let's kind of start back at the base. You've been goal driven for a long time. Let's just start with, where does that come from?
I'm not exactly sure where it comes from. I guess at some point, I realized I liked searching for, what I was made of, what was I capable of doing. I mean, my first race of any kind was a marathon when I was 30 years old, and I'd never been a runner and just sort of signed up on a whim and did it. And even just that one race, sort of something clicked in my head. And I just wanted from that point on to see what I was capable of doing and just constantly pushing my limits for, the last almost 30 years now, which brings me to the granddaddy of them all.
Yep. Yep. So, uh, I know you've done a number of what they call the seven summits. I've done those. I've completed that, and a bunch of other mountains too. They've been thrown in really post that. So a lot of people kind of think about, you get to a certain goal and they kind of stop that circuit. But there's obviously endless mountains that are out there, and you've
Clearly.
continued to do that. But in terms of that series, the seven, and I know you've done a number of them. Would this be the seven, or are there less than that?
No, this will be my seventh. Yeah.
Okay, so
hmm
and I think I remember
And I
seeing
did
you.
both, Carson's Pyramid and Kosciuszko, because there's
Yeah,
always that debate on which is which one of those counts. So lots of people just go ahead and do both of them. So basically eight.
yeah, no, no, I understand that. Dick Bass, I had the great fortune of meeting him. He's the one who is really the founder and the creator of this whole,
Yes,
this made up, let's go
right.
climb
And I
challenge
read
all
his
over the
book.
world.
I mean, 30 years ago, it sort of got my brain
Same here.
cranking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I actually had dinner with him. I was at his event, Steve Young. It was really cool years
Oh,
ago
that's
down this
awesome.
snowbird. And so that's what originally really inspired me to do and take this thing on. But
Yeah,
he
me
went
too.
down,
Really.
and after watching you climb in the rain down at Carson's Pyramid, like down
Yeah, it
in New
was
Guinea.
nasty.
Yeah, it's just like I don't need to do that. So anyway,
Right.
okay, so let's talk about why you're here today, Mount Everest. So first of all, there are two sides of the mountain. One is the north, that's in Tibet, actually controlled by China. There's been a lot of start and stops over the year. China can kind of do what they want when they want based on
Yeah.
whatever. The
Yes.
year the year I climbed to the top of the world, there was actually a red line across the top, and China would not allow anybody to climb from that side. I came from the south. So I know there's been some debate. Are you going from the north to the south? And so let's talk about what side you're going to start on.
Yeah, well, originally I had signed up, so I'm going with Furtenbach Adventures. And originally we signed up for the north side specifically to avoid the crowds.
Yeah.
Really, that was it. A lot of people say the Khumbu Icefall is really dangerous.
Yeah.
As you know, you pretty much climb it in the middle of the night when it's cold.
Yeah.
And for the most part, it's not really that dangerous if done properly. So we signed up for the north side, and I've been visualizing the north route. I've watching, there's not that many videos of the north compared to the south, as you know. But I was just really getting into that side. And then just 2 weeks ago, we get word, as you mentioned, that the Chinese just decided to not accept foreign climbers, maybe any climbers, but certainly not foreign climbers. So, fortunately, with our guide group, we were able to immediately pivot to the south, whereas maybe another group would have just been totally out of luck. Um, so yeah, now we've pivoted to the south, and so that just that changes a lot. But yeah, so now I'm going up the same way you did,
Yep.
although as you mentioned, a little differently. We're doing the flash expedition, the pre-acclimatization, that whole 9 yards.
Okay, so let's get into that for a minute. By the way, just, like the words of somebody who's actually done this, that I wouldn't discount the Khumbu Icefall. It is wicked dangerous. I went through it 6 times. Every single time I went through a different route. I mean, it was
Yeah.
constantly collapsing. And you do go through at 2 o'clock in the morning with the headlamp on. But as you're going through, you can hear the ice crackling underneath. And the way the sun spins around there, it beats on it late in the afternoon. So that's one of the reasons why these 30-foot ice blocks, tumble down. But there's
Right.
been many a Sherpa going through there that have, seen their lives in. So don't
Yeah, of
don't
course.
don't miscalculate that.
Yeah, no, no doubt.
Yeah. So okay. All right. So I one of the things that as I reflect back, I was just on the mountain way too long, right? And I think for between your business and your family, probably are some motivating factors to do it a different way. In the last couple of years, they've offered kind of a different way to approach that. I want to get into that, but at the end of the day, my body just wore down. I was down 35 pounds from what my frame is, and I don't have 35
Yeah,
pounds to lose.
that's a
And
lot.
the energy and where I was at my strongest was on my second rotation. I did a total of three rotations. The second rotation, like I could have just kept going. We made it up to camp three, and then it was a bright sunny day, and we turned around, went back down, and then waited another couple weeks before the time was right.
Right.
And that just got super
Yeah, it's too
dangerous.
long.
So I know who I went with, Garrett Madison, and I think others are starting to do shorten it up, going from 2+ months, 8 weeks down to 6 or less than that. You're going to do it in 3. So let's talk about what you're doing to prep today at your house. You live in Virginia. Uh,
Yeah.
let's talk about what you do today and tell me about that tent you climb in every night.
Yeah, climb into. I do my climbing before I get in there, but yeah.
Yeah.
So we are pre-acclimatizing before we even go. Tonight, I think marks my 2 weeks, 14 days sleeping in a hypoxico tent. So basically, you have a tent. Now, normally it would be a big tent where you can put a whole mattress in and plenty of room to move around. But because of the air volume in there, it's harder. It takes longer to get that up to altitude. And like if you have to get up and pee in the middle of the night and you unzip it, then half your altitude blows
Yeah.
out, and
Yeah.
you lose time. So I'm sleeping in basically a head tent that kind of comes to my chest. You hook it up. There's a machine called a hypoxico machine, and you literally, set the dial for whatever feet you want to sleep at. You basically simulate that altitude. It has a hose that goes into the tent, and then your tent is basically at that altitude. So my first night in it, I slept at 5,000 feet, and I've been kind of going up about 500 a night. I think last night I was around 13,500.
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable. It's a little bit claustrophobic, and I've been relegated to the guest room. My wife doesn't want to sleep next to a plastic tent and a machine that makes the room hot as hell and is
Yeah.
noisy. So we've got separate sleeping accommodations for the next month and a half. So I'll sleep in there for 2 months. So the idea, but as you mentioned, yeah, I have a business. I have kids, two girls, twins that are in high school. I've got a lot going on. I probably couldn't go for 2 months like the regular climbers go, but also it's not just the time. This is actually becoming a safer way to do it. Like as you mentioned, by the time your third rotation was up, you're really kind of off your peak.
Yeah.
The idea here is us to train here, acclimatize before we go, and show up and peak physical condition, rested, not sick, and ready to go. The longer you're on the mountain pre-acclimatize or climatizing, you could be getting sick from, all the close quarters, all these people coming from different parts of the world. You're hanging out with them in tents, you're going to get sick. And also, the more you're exposed to accidents, if you're climbing, doing 3 rotations, two of them you're on the mountain, more chance of avalanche, more chance
Yeah.
of crevasse fall, the Khumbu tipping over on you.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we're going to hike to a separate Maru Peak, we're going to do 1 rotation on there and sleep at, we maybe hike in for 3 days. I think we sleep at the top or near the top at maybe 21,000 feet.
Yeah.
We come down, we helicopter to Everest, and then go one time up. We go through the Khumbu up and down once as opposed to your six
Mm.
times.
Wow.
So that's the plan.
I love the plan. I wish I was on that plan. We did climb up, I think it might have been that peak or another one, but up to like 20,000 feet. It was just,
Yeah.
we didn't even spend the night. We just climbed up there and came back down. But that was just all part of it. But it's a grind. And actually the year 2021 when I was up there, there was another COVID outbreak coming in from India.
Mm.
And so there was a lot of people, whole expeditions got that shut down. But that Kumbh cough is real, and people uh, getting sick, eating bad food, wearing
Yeah.
down, the exposure, the amount of times you have. I would have loved to just go one. Now I can tell you this: I was in my first time. I went up to my first rotation up to Camp 2 at 21,500 feet. I was fairly well, I would say sick, but I was just punky and I wasn't feeling right. It was the altitude sickness, and that's
Yeah.
all it was. And I came back down the second time, like I said, uh, as I made it my way up, I was super strong. So
Yeah.
I'm loving this idea, and it's going to be interesting because there is real wear and tear on your legs, and going up there. I wish I probably would have. Well, maybe I don't know if I need it or not. I ended up spending the night at 26.5 with no O's. The
Yeah, you
whole
told me that story. That's unreal, man.
Yeah, it's unreal and it
You're
shouldn't have
really lucky
happened.
you survived that, actually.
It's a miracle, beyond all that stuff. So my hope is that you're gonna have that all set up. So okay, so you're shortening this whole thing down from double the time I was there down to 3 weeks, more or less. You're gonna go out, you're gonna spend the night at 21, and that's gonna be a big help. I love that plan. You're gonna come back down, you're gonna go through this thing. It's gonna be a hell of an experience for you, as you navigate your way through that, and then up you go. And you
Yeah.
got it. And so now the other side, for those people who don't know, a lot of the times they're saying, well, why do you stay there so long? And one of the reasons, if you do it the way I did it, is because you're trying to acclimate to build up more red blood cells. And that's the reason why you were doing the same thing in this tent back in
Yes.
Virginia, because red blood cells carry oxygen around your body. So that's really the other big part of that is you're just waiting and you're sitting, and your 3 weeks, maybe, 3.5 or 4, you just don't know because you're waiting for the jet stream, which sits on the top of the world at 225 miles per hour. You're waiting for that to lift up. So it gives you relative safe passage for you to go and attack that.
Correct.
So, you just never know. It's the weather, it's Mother Nature, and it can turn on you in a dime.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, all this preparation, as you know, the months you trained, the months I've trained, and it still kind of comes down to a coin toss. I mean, is Mother Nature going to give you that window so that you can do what you've prepared for months and months to do? That's the part that, gets your anxiety up because there's so many things you can't really control.
Yeah.
And the main thing is weather. I mean, you still got to do everything. So what I'm just concentrating on doing is everything in my power to get myself to that position to be able to go if the weather, Mother Nature allows us to go. I tell people all the time, there's tons of reasons why I cannot summit, but my fitness level is not going to be why I don't summit. I
Yeah.
can guarantee you that,
Yeah.
it's going to be one of the things that's out of my control that would potentially stop us.
Yeah, I mean, you just never know what there are variables. This talk I just did in Austin, we were talking about that, and it's just the variables of the variable. I'm just telling you right now, as much as you think you train and you try to come up with this different stuff, there's just something in there that some wild card that's going to play, and you're just going to have to deal with that. And I have no
Yeah.
idea what that's going to be. And it
Right.
could be minor, it could be a big thing. You just don't
Yeah,
know. Everybody's body is certainly different,
I
on the
agree.
way up. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and you're a professional athlete. You've been through this. You gotta mentally prepare
mhm.
to just pivot. Rarely do any of our plans work out the way we planned them, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, usually they, even in my life, I mean, they usually end up pretty well, but they still never quite went the direction that I planned. So I know all this planning, something's always going to pop up. And the people that are successful are the ones that can pivot, they can adapt to the change, not get bogged down. Oh, this is what I planned. I mean, even just 2 weeks ago, we could have said, oh, well, I've been planning on the north side this whole time. I'm just going to wait. You got to be able to pivot, change your plan, and then just be determined to march on no matter which direction you got to go.
Yeah, I love that. And it actually really applies in terms of leadership, which, like in day-to-day business for anybody, they can really identify that, sometimes you just need to pivot and go in a new direction or alter, what the original plan was. My plan too was to come down and jump in my tent for a couple hours, then go up the other side and climb
Yeah.
Lhotse.
Oh,
And that just did not play out. So it's
no.
just,
And I don't blame you. No
yeah,
way.
and so I've been asked, would you want to go back and do that? And the answer is yes. However, I don't want to spend 2 months for one day and the kind of money it costs to go do that.
Right. Yeah, it's a
So,
lot.
question for you. I went up with one Sherpa. Other people went up with two. What's your plan in terms of as you go?
I'll tell you exactly. So with Furtenbach Adventures, we each, so there's, and the other nice thing about my group is that I know all the guys. It's five of us, including me. Two of the guys I've done adventures, races, and mountain climbs with for 20 years.
Great.
Two of the other guys I actually met on Carson's Pyramid. But when you spend
Yeah.
a week on a mountain, it's like the same as, I mean, I've never served our country in the military, but I sort of liken it to being in a foxhole
Yeah.
on the front lines with somebody. I mean, when you're in a tent with buddies and your life's kind of on the line, you get super close, super fast. So I feel pretty close with those guys too. So there's five of us, and we each get two Sherpas that will be assigned to us, and everybody else has got one Western guide for two clients. So each client will have two Sherpas and then one Western guide for two of them. I signed up for the like the premium guide service, and I have one Western guide just for me and two Sherpas just for me. So we'll be
Good
like
for you.
a little pod, and I feel like I'm going to be cocooned with professionals. I'm not expecting anyone to carry me up there. My own legs are going to do it, but I'm not going to pretend that without them I would have no chance of success. They're going to
No.
be really my guides, and even if I'm not capable of making that decision, to turn around, they're my safety guides. If they think for whatever reason that I'm not cutting it, they'll turn me around, which also makes me and my wife feel safer because she
Yeah.
doesn't think, and she's probably right, that I would just be like, you know what, I don't think I can make it. I'm afraid I would just keep going until it's too late. So I got a great safety factor with those guys.
Yeah. It's called summit fever,
Yeah,
That's what ends up
right.
happening. But I'll tell you another
But
thing
we
too.
both know the goal is not to get up there. The goal is to get up there and get back down.
That's right. And one of the things too that I think is a benefit for you is that, and one of the things that certainly weighed me down was the amount of weight I was carrying on my back, and it just like over the course, every little ounce matters. So to be able to really be able to push that off on some of the other guys, to parlay, and they're animals. I mean, they're incredible. The
Oh,
Sherpas,
they're literally a different breed.
yeah, when you are going to be huffing and puffing in your way, they're just
Yeah,
going to be walking by and having a normal conversation. So it's really incredible to see,
yeah.
what these people. So are you then trekking at all? Are you spending any time when you fly into Lukla to trek up to?
No, we're just going to do a 2 or 3 trek to the Mara Peak, the other peak, but no, we're not doing the base camp, the normal Everest
Yeah,
base camp trek at all.
yeah, it just
So there's a
helps.
little bit of that culture that I'm going to kind of miss, but my
Yeah,
wife may and my kids may want to take the Everest base camp trip sometime. So maybe I'll go back sometime and just do that trek. That's the other thing that I find when people asking me questions, because the Everest base camp trek has become kind of an adventure
yeah,
for the quote unquote
yeah,
average person.
yeah,
And when I mention I'm climbing Everest, 90% of people say, to the top, or they
Yeah,
say good luck with your hike. I'm like,
yeah,
okay, no, no, no. I'm what I'm doing is climbing to the
yeah,
summit
yeah.
versus the hike to base camp. Those are two different worlds.
Yeah, getting up there, it is cool because you start at 9,800 feet in Lukla, also considered the world's most dangerous airport. It's pretty wild when you fly in this thing. And it's in your meandering your way. It takes about 12 days, 40 miles to get up to Everest Base Camp at 17,500 feet. And with that, you really start to build your endurance. And you're right, you do pass through a number of different villages that have been there since the 1500s and the way they do
Crazy.
it. So it's just really cool. And anybody can do it. That takes, there's no danger. You just got to be ready to climb from point A to point B, and that's it. And it's
Yeah.
not really strenuous. It's not very much uphill, although it is a gradual
Yeah,
uphill.
graduate. Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
but anybody can do it. So it's
Yeah.
anybody listening to right now. You can do it. You can get out there. It's an adventure. It's cool. You can do it with the family. You can do it with really anybody. So
Yeah.
I like your game plan that you might return with your wife and daughters sometime.
Yeah. I think that would be nice.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about when you're taking off.
Well, that's another thing, with what's going on with the world. I was flying through Dubai,
Yeah.
and a day after this madness started, I immediately switched my tickets. So now I'm flying the whole opposite directions. I'm flying from DC to San Fran, then Hong Kong to Kathmandu,
Okay.
and I leave April 24th. Um, and actually, mark my ticket home is May 18th. So, I mean, I know I could potentially, it could
Yeah.
be delayed for weather, but
Yeah.
I actually have a ticket home, from April 24th to March 18th if everything actually, or May 18th if everything went well. But yeah, it's coming up quickly.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't even buy a return ticket because I
Yeah,
had
I probably
right.
shouldn't have.
So,
Yeah.
but whatever. And my summit date was May 22nd, 2021. So,
Okay.
I mean, and
Yeah.
again, that's just weather, and we were waiting out, and then we get stuck in a cyclone at Camp 3
Oh,
for 3 days in a tent, and that was not
that,
fun.
that's brutal. Oh,
Yeah. So, but boy, I sure like your game plan a lot better after, having done this. I mean, the only thing there's no substitute for actually doing it and getting up there and kind of understanding what you're going to be in for. But,
sure.
having kind of a one-way ticket going up and one-way ticket coming back down mandatory
Yeah.
it seems like I would have loved to have tried that. I think it would have been for my body and my endurance and everything else,
Yeah.
it worked a lot better for
Yeah,
me.
and again, even taking the family and business and not being able taking that out. If I was single and had no attachments, I
Yeah.
think I would still choose this way. I think it's actually a safer way to do it.
Yeah.
And Furtenbach, he owns the oxygen company. There's no more of that middleman stuff. And you hear the stories about how they've run out of oxygen or someone
Yeah.
took them. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a seamless process. He owns all the steps and I'm confident that we'll have all the oxygen we need, no last minute surprises, and so that's also given me a bit of confidence and eases some of my worries.
Love it. Love it. So, finally is we're talking today and the date is March 16th, I believe, 2026. And what I want to do with you is when you come back home and after you're rested and you've given your daughters and your wife a big hug and you've recouped, we're going to get you back on the pod and we're going to like re go through this. And it will be interesting to the conversation. I'm going to say something like, okay,
Yes.
Frank, how did it go? And
Yeah,
you
this is
go,
what you
well,
said.
I wish I would have done this, but we did that, and
Right.
we ran into blank, and then this happened, and
Yes.
this is how
Oh,
we did the pivot, and it's going to be really cool to just see
yeah, it
what
really will
kind of
be interesting.
what your mindset is today versus after you go
Right.
through that experience. And the mountain, is a beast, and
Yeah.
I know you'll make all the right decisions, you have the right people around you, but it's going to be super fun to come back and do a recap on this.
Yeah, that will be cool to see how what we if how many things panned out the way we planned it and how many things didn't.
Yeah, no, I love that. Okay, well, listen, let's do that then. Let's plan on
Okay,
it.
awesome, man.
Safe travels. Can't wait to.
I appreciate
And
it.
also another thing would be really cool is if you get back to me and I'll put it on this pod. If you can let me know, which I'll let everybody else know, where and how we can follow you, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I will definitely do that.
You'll probably have some tracker connected to you.
Yeah, I'll have something going on.
Yeah.
And and I appreciate your advice, and we've spoken privately a couple times,
Yeah.
and I value your experience and some of the stuff you've told me, so I really appreciate that.
We got to keep you safe.
Yeah,
That's
thanks,
the
buddy.
goal. All right.
Yeah. All right, thanks,
All
Mark.
right. There he is, the one, the only Frank Furnish. Thank you.